Traveling with film can always be such a nightmare with airport security and X-rays. I've had my fair share of film absolutely slam dunk body slammed by X-rays before, and today I want to save you from that pain. Welcome to those of you who are new. My name is Drew. On this channel, we cover all things film, photography, and creativity in general. So if that's up your alley, please consider subscribing. X-rays absolutely 100% of the time have a negative effect on your film. Now, some of you out there may be thinking, well, I've traveled with film
this many times and you got X-rayed this much and
and I was fine. And good. I'm glad that your pictures came out. However, a perfect track record is not a guarantee, and there's going to be varying degrees of tolerable damage. Plus, there's a lot of variables that can contribute to really inconsistent results with X-rays. First off, what film were you using? The higher the ISO, the more likely damage is to be done. The damage consists of color shifting, fogging, strange weird artifacts or waves, the loss of contrast, how long has it been exposed to said X-rays, what intensity was the X-ray machine used at, and there's also different types of X-ray machines. For example, the much more powerful and film lethal CT scanners. Those are the final boss of film X-rays. Now, TSA claims that an ISO of 800 and below is safe for X-rays, but we all know that that's absolutely not true. Airport security is very much not film friendly, and odds are your luggage has been stopped and flagged before because of your film. Airports just do not like film. For some reason, some ancient, deep, primal urge to double check and rescan all film is somehow a massive problem. Okay, so what do we do about it? How do we avoid this at all costs? What are some of our options? We're going to be covering every single tip that I've compiled and things that have worked really well for me, all in this video to save you and protect your little film babies. First off, the most ideal situation for film and airport security is for it not to get X-rayed at all in the first place, which can be done upon request. This is called a hand check. When you arrive at the X-rays, you can simply ask the staff for a hand check. Now, before I dive into all the nuances and tips that can help with this method, let's make a few things very clear. Your job is to make you and your film look absolutely safe and unassuming, non-threatening as possible. And why I'm emphasizing this so much is that not a lot of people know what film is and don't really know what to do about it. Film is a very niche thing, and so not a lot of people will understand it at the depth that we do, which is totally fine, but it does become an important factor when a stranger who may not know anything is dictating the safety and future of your film. You are going to make everything as transparent, legible, and clear as possible so that anyone from the human public will understand what is happening. Use clear Ziploc bags, label everything, and it's probably a good idea to unpackage the film too, because again, you're removing any possible boundaries or barriers for them to flag as suspicious. Basically, your whole goal is to make all of your possessions look as friend-shaped as possible. And of course, you're not doing anything wrong here. You're not a criminal, but again, due to the somewhat general lack of understanding of film, people can get really confused sometimes. For example, even after asking for a hand check, someone saw my 120 film, and since they didn't recognize what it was, they tried to open it up, which obviously you don't want to do, and then continue to throw it back into the X-ray to get it rescanned, and luckily I stopped them in time, but because 120 isn't what most people naturally think of when they think of film, it gave them all the more reason to have that miscommunication. So since then, even if I don't have a 35mm camera, I've just thrown in some dummy rolls of 35mm just because it's far more readable and easy to understand film. Do not scan. And hopefully they will honor your request. By being respectful and following these tips, you can make the airport experience a smooth, easygoing ride for absolutely everyone involved. Now, if they do honor your request, they will take that film around the X-rays, completely safe from those evil monsters, and will individually swab each item and then scan said swab for any harmful substances. That is the most ideal situation that you can get. Now, the staff are busy workers, and it can also be a busy day at the airport, so it may be at their discretion to just say no. It's also important to mention that these rules and regulations can vary per country. So in some areas where they do know a thing or two about film, they may actually individually check the ISO of every single film and only let a certain number of them pass, which is why labeling can be helpful, because you can even maybe somewhat accidentally mislabel a 100 speed ISO film as something a little higher, which I allegedly may or may not have done to a roll of 120, which didn't have any labels or markings on it to show what the true ISO was. Okay, so what if they deny your request? Or what if it's too busy? Or what if you chicken out and you don't want to talk to other human beings? Which I've never done. Let's say a hand check is not possible, you can't get one. This is your plan B, a lead-lined bag intended for X-rays. Why this is your plan B and not your plan A is because obviously plan A is much, much better. Yes, it does require a little bit more work on your end, but that's technically the safest option. Now, are lead-lined bags perfect? No, but it will provide some peace of mind knowing that this is better than nothing. However, there's some important tips that you need to know in how to use one of these to make your process as smooth as possible. Since lead-lined bags are meant to protect from X-rays, when it goes through an X-ray, there is the potential that this could look more suspicious, so they may increase or boost the X-rays to really take a peek in here, which would then probably negate the purpose of having this thing. So these are my tips for using a lead-lined bag. You will still follow the tip of making everything very clear, simple, and easy so that a film noob will know what's going on too, and still use a Ziploc bag. I will then take said Ziploc bag and put it inside of this bag. And I learned from experience, don't leave this in your suitcase or a backpack. Just take it out all the way and set this thing down on its own tray. And yes, I've experienced this, which is why I'm telling you. And again, because it's lead lined, it becomes more interesting to them. It got double scanned and swabbed anyway, making everything more of a headache and more of a pain in the butt. Have this out on its own tray. It shows very clearly you're not trying to hide anything. It's very clear what it is. I would also recommend labeling this to show, hey, there's film in here. I'm aware and we are aware this is lead. I am not hiding the fact that this is a lead lined bag. And those are some tips to make plan B as smooth as possible. And that process has worked flawlessly for me with no extra rescans. So take that how you will. And don't you worry, I will have links to everything below. Now, this is the most important thing that you can possibly take away from this video. Do not put your film in a checked bag. Checked baggage goes through a far more intensive X-ray process than your typical X-rays via security, and that will absolutely nuke your film. All those checked bags are probably stored in an area that is not air and temperature controlled, so there's a higher possibility that your film that was intensively X-rayed more than it needed to be is now thrown into an oven, just cooking in the oven underneath you during your flight. Now, this next method, which is a little more unconventional, however, we're still covering everything, is to not travel with film at all, and to then purchase your film at your destination. And exposed film, so before it's developed, is still going to be sensitive to those X-rays. So you could then also develop the film at that location too. You don't have to deal with those pesky X-rays at all. However, you do have a new problem. Now you've got these cumbersome giant rolls of film that do not pack easily and can't be crushed by your luggage. So what do you do then? You could mail your film back. However, that's going to add to even more of the costs. Or you can do something that I've done. I archive all of my film in these protective sheets, and they make all sorts of film sizes for 120, 35 millimeter. And so what I've done, I always travel with this. This is a TSA approved pair of scissors. Scissors are just surprisingly really helpful to have, and they won't scream at you for having those because they're tiny. Anyway, I will then use those scissors, cut up those rolls into this far more manageable form factor that can just sit flat against a laptop, sit flat against the flat of your suitcase, and it's far less likely to get scratched and crunched and wrecked by your packing. And yeah, this method is a bit more extreme and definitely requires some homework ahead of time to make sure that you're able to buy the film you want and to make sure those prices are reasonable, and to make sure there's a lab that you could trust. But it is an option I've done, and it worked out well for me. And if you have any tips or tricks or things that have worked well for you, by all means, please share them below in the comments so that we can all learn together. If you learned something new or liked this video, please like it. Do not forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.